panic time? Are you going to jump on the panic bandwagon with me, people? Phillies send the absolute worst email. We're going to talk about the range of emotions I went through in a 2-minute span yesterday. Hey, all this and more coming right your way, trending in the AM, 30 seconds.
Holding gets around in front.
And Philadelphia has it.
And a very good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. Live, as always, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, you know the drill. Hit that like button, subscribe button, share button, retweet button, all the great things. Do us the favor, hit the like and the subscribe button on the YouTube page. We greatly appreciate that help building the YouTube account. Everything helps. Everything matters. If you're watching this on replay later today, still hitting that like and subscribe button. The comments still will come through and help. Greatly appreciate it. I'm your host, Phil Stifle, at Bearded Knowledge on Twitter. You can shoot me a follow over there if you'd like. We got lots to talk about today. I'm trying to bring the Eagles back to the forefront of the show here for a little bit. So much talk and so much energy and excitement going towards the Phillies in the World Series. Kind of forget the Eagles are still 6-0. The Eagles are still the number one team in the NFL, my power ranking number one team, which triggers so many people on social media that I've got them. The Sixers are so classy. They didn't want to. Yeah, exactly. I saw a comment. I was on the Philly podcast last night. My man Joe Castro had me on, and somebody said they're the sacrificial lamb, the Sixers this year, so that the Phillies and the Eagles can win titles. Yeah, that's basically what it is. We'll get to the Sixers later in this show. I've been telling you since the offseason, since the end of last season, guys, it's panic time in Philly. I don't care about this offseason. It wasn't good enough, in my opinion. I know it was an unpopular opinion. We'll get to that. But we got it. We got to, bring the Eagles. This is a football city back to the forefront, back to the conversation. We got a very easy, on paper, winnable game against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday. Double-digit favorites. Doesn't happen often. And yesterday afternoon, we're sitting there hyping up Phillies, hyping up Sixers, doing all that. And then breaking news comes across the wire. Howie Roseman makes a trade with the Chicago Bears for Robert Quinn, defensive end, 32 years old. All the compensation was a fourth-round pick, and it seems like the Bears are paying a majority of his salary this year. Now, I know a lot of people, including myself, first thing I did when I made that, saw that news I went right to the box scores. I wanted to see what Robert Quinn's numbers were like at this point in his career. And I see the stats, 8 tackles only 1 sack on the season, only a couple quarterback hurries. But Robert Quinn has been double-teamed on 58 snaps this year. In comparison, Nick Bosa and Micah Parsons have only both been double-teamed 40 times. And they're the two best pass rushers in football. Robert Quinn on that Bears defensive front was the focal point of the opposing team's offensive line blocking schemes every single game this year. He just couldn't get. Last year, Robert Quinn had 18 and a half sacks for the Bears. All it's going to cost you is a fourth-round pick. Again, Howie Roseman playing chess while all the other GMs are playing checkers. It's an excellent, excellent trade, excellent move, and I couldn't be more excited about it. I mean, just think about it. You got Brandon Graham, you got Josh Sweat, and now you throw Robert Quinn in there. And Robert Quinn's under contract for the next 2 years as well. Now, that's going to be something that we're going to have to discuss down the line, what Howie's going to do. I mean, it's an $18 million cap hit next year to have him. I didn't even mention, Reddick as well. It's going to make Hassan Reddick better. He's going to make everybody on that front four. Just think of the fronts now that you could create with Reddick, Sweat. You could slide Brandon Graham on a blitz down into the middle. Reddick and Sweat, and hell, just do Jordan Davis with Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, and Robert Quinn, and just get after the quarterback. We've had trouble. We've put pressure on the quarterbacks this year. We just haven't been able to get home as much as we like. Well, this is going to make him 10 times better and much more effective of getting at the quarterback. You're going to be able to manage everybody's snaps a little bit better. Robert Quinn's been playing 60 to 70% of the snaps. A couple games, he was over 70% of the snaps on the field for the Bears. He's not going to have to do that here, which means he's going to be fresher. He's going to be, ready to roll. Come playoff time, him, Fletcher Cox, Hargrave, these veteran guys, they'll be rested. Brandon Graham, look, he's been playing 45-ish, 50% of the snaps this year, most games. That could come down a tick. He could be ready to roll come playoff time. Dude, there is nothing bad that anybody could say about this deal. Like I said, the only negative you could say about this deal is the simple fact that he's got a very expensive next 2 years on his contract. We just have to have faith in Howie Roseman that Howie Roseman will find a way to renegotiate, redo that contract, do what he does best, which is give some bonuses out here or there and restructure it somehow so that next year we're not paying a 33-year-old guy. I think it's a $14 million salary. Got it up over here on this screen. Yeah, next year he is on the hook for a $14 million salary, but it's an $18 million cap hit. It's a lot of money. For a guy that's going to be 33 years old. So, that would be the only negative. But the one thing we've always had faith and confidence in Howie is the ability to renegotiate these deals. And I know we call kicking it down the line. We've done that a lot with a lot of contracts, but Howie seems to figure it out. We've only had it really backfire the one time with the cap hit on Carson Wentz. So I'm not really concerned about it. This just does so many things to help this defense. The depth. This team does not need. There's so many rumors, and I don't think Howie Roseman is done making trades. Yeah, he was a beast last season. And to get him for a fourth, maybe a third and a fifth, based on. Yeah, I'm surprised that actually the back end of this that the Bears only got a fourth for him. A lot of people are saying the Bears win to an extent this contract, this trade because they got a fourth. The Bears are 3-4. I mean, they just had a big win on Monday Night Football. I'm surprised the Bears are willing to sell him off that cheaply. You would think that they would have been able to get more. And that just goes back to Howie Roseman. If you're a GM of another football team and you see the 215 area code pop up on your cell phone or 610 or 44, whatever Howie's number is, maybe Howie lives in Jersey. Maybe he's got an 856. You see that number popping up on your cell phone, you're like, ignore. Because he's going to pick your pocket and get the better of you in a trade. It's a great deal, and look, there's a lot of rumors floating around that the Eagles are not done. That there's a lot of other moves that Howie Roseman wants to make, could make. Howie Hollywood Roseman. The Sixers sold their soul so that the Eagles can make the Super Bowl this year and the Phillies, the World Series for sure. Thanks for checking in, Peanut, my man. There's a lot of rumors out there. I know there's sites saying Alvin Kamara. Jerry Jeudy and all these big names. Robert Quinn is the perfect type of trade for this Eagles team. It's a depth piece. It's at Chris Long. And that's what this team needs. This team does not need to go out and get and spend a second or third round pick on a running back or a wide receiver. Now, this is a great comparison. How is the new? Danny Ainge is the new Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman's been pulling wool over the heads of other GMs for a long time. But we don't need the big name trade. We are pretty deep at the top. It's the back end. When Chauncey Gardner-Johnson got hurt for half a game a week or two ago, Kayvon Wallace obviously wasn't the good answer to fill in. So you need a backup safety, some depth safety. There's names out there. Running back, Miles Sanders is the lead back, but he's going to miss 2 games. I'm not looking at the low end guys. I'm looking at the high end guys. I'm looking at the low end guys. Real quick, we're going to cut this conversation off for one quick second here. I am going to introduce my guest here today for the next 20 minutes or so. My man, Neal Coolong, NFL Wire, Pittsburgh Steelers cover. Good morning, Neal. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Phil. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. In Philly right now, there's so much, excitement over the World Series. We kind of forget. We got we're 6-0. We're coming out of the bye, and we're coming up against your Pittsburgh Steelers this week. It's kind of like the Eagles have not taken the back page in a really long time.
It's the epicenter of the world, and from a sporting perspective, there aren't many places that would be better than Philadelphia to have that. I know that's not going to be popular for my Pittsburgh audience, but I've spent some time in Philadelphia. I love Philadelphia. I think it's great what the Phillies are doing. I'm not a huge baseball guy, but I've really enjoyed watching them do their thing. I think it's great. I'm a long-suffering Twins fan, so I don't really have any expectations for my team in October. We usually get swept about then. So if it's a team I can root for, I'm happy. No Yankees, probably not the Astros either. So
I
go
don't think I
Phils.
ever remember a time when Philadelphia had so much of the country rooting for them because the Astros are the enemy like they're one of the most hated teams in sports. So, we got that going for us, but we got the Steelers this week. And I was just starting off the show talking about the Eagles, Howie Roseman making a huge trade yesterday afternoon, bringing in Robert Quinn. All he did was trade a 4th-round draft pick for a guy that just last year had 18 and a half sacks. And just thinking about how Howie Roseman just continues to get one up on all the GMs across the league, making all these great trades that seem on paper to be highway robbery to an extent. Do you have any thoughts on Robert Quinn being added to that Eagles front four?
I think obviously it's a big improvement. It's another body, and I think one commonality Super Bowl contending teams, Super Bowl champions have is something of a rotation up front. They have guys they can mix in and use strategically. They can use them based on their opponent, and this is something just to follow up your point about Roseman. At this point, what you see with what he's doing in my mind, I think the last time I was on this, I praised his efforts for what he's been able to put together and kind of rebounding from a little bit of a lull. But the team that he has assembled and what they have coached up to has the ability to make any team off balance. And that I think is a critical component in the NFL when you don't have a superstar under center. With the physical traits to utterly dominate an opponent, you have to get smarter. I think to some degree, you can get away with a schematic disadvantage if you have a great quarterback. I really like Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is very good, and he's proving that to this point this season. But he's not a guy that is going to. He's not Patrick Mahomes, and that shouldn't be the standard. He absolutely is the standard of nothing at this point in his career. But Hurts is. I don't want to say limited, but he's not going to be the guy that can do absolutely everything all the time. So you construct something around him that gives him the ability to do the things that he can do well in a consistent manner. Roseman seems to know that, and he's put together a team that has that kind of balance, that can make anybody left-handed. Whatever it is you don't do well, we can probably do well. So we're going to use that against you. It's a very difficult team to prepare for. And on top of that, with the draft capital that they've amassed, it gives them the opportunity to go after the deadline like this and be aggressive and get even better than what they are right now. Not be satisfied with just 6 weeks and status quo, everything is fine. We're going to make our team better because we have the ability to do that. Now, I'm not somebody that believes, amassing draft picks to draft a bunch of young, cheap players is going to automatically result in a championship team in 2-3 years. You have to hit on every one of those picks, and that just doesn't happen. To acquire veterans that can play for draft picks is more of a financial question than anything else. And Philadelphia is representing what I think should be more of a modern approach to putting together a roster. We can assemble draft capital, and we'll use that to replenish, sometimes bolster our depth, though, top to bottom. But we're going to use it to go out and find guys we know that can play, and not sit around and wait and wonder if this guy's going to pan out or not. Go out and get the dudes that can play now. That's how you win. I mean, it seems obvious, but we've gotten into such a trap in my mind over the last 15, 20 years, from Thaler's paper until now, thinking that draft picks are the best way to do it, when in reality, it's a guidebook of how to do it at a cost-effective manner. The salary cap is through the roof compared to what it used to be. There's rollover money every year to artificially inflate the cap, and teams aren't putting it back into their rosters nearly as much as owners want you to believe that they are. The average is they're under 25 million every season. They have the money to spend. Some teams are spending it in a smart fashion. And I think Philadelphia is one of the ones doing that. To acquire a guy like Quinn, who can play 3 downs in multiple roles for you, only makes your team that much better. It only makes a defense that it is coming along. It's coming of age. They're going to be able to make more plays now with what they have. A great secondary, that it probably still has a little bit of work to do, but they're solid top to bottom, and you really can't ask for a whole lot more. I thought it was a great move.
Yeah. So, I didn't I had to while you're talking, I had to research this. The Atlantic crossover, they're asking Neil your take on Matt Canada. I didn't even know who he was. It seems like it's your
I wish I
offensive
didn't.
coordinator there for a second. So that leads me into the Steelers. So we're going up against the Steelers. You guys, I mean, when I had you on in the offseason, you thought Mitchell Trubisky was going to be the starter for quite a long time this season. You didn't know when they were going to turn the reins over to Kenny Pickett, but Kenny Pickett is now your guy there in Pittsburgh. You guys are all in on him. So thoughts on Matt Canada? I guess that leads into Kenny Pickett, what him and Kenny Pickett are going to be doing with this offense. And is there so we're seeing with Jalen Hurts like some progression. From last year to this year, he's obviously taken leaps and bounds progression. Do you see anything so far in Kenny Pickett and what they're doing in this offense to give Pittsburgh fans any hope going forward?
Yeah, with Pickett, the one thing that really stands out with him, he's got a certain aura to him. He's very poised. He's very confident, probably overconfident at this point. But I'll gladly take that problem from a rookie quarterback. He doesn't have the physical ability to do a lot of the high level things that you would want, and they need to find a way to make him the most effective per throw that he can be. My opinion, Matt Canada is falling short in that regard. Their route concepts are among the least original in the league. They're not doing a whole lot of combos with a rookie quarterback, and before that, a free agent quarterback. You probably don't have the ability to run a lot of option routes with what you have, but they're not setting the table from one route to another. They're not trying to get to a primary guy in a way that confuses a defense, if that makes sense. You need to run combination stuff. That's really a modern offense. They're not doing that. It's very much a Tecmo Bowl kind of offense. Like, you've got this play, you guys are doing these things, and they're set in stone. You can tell that there's not a whole lot of variation after the snap. They're not reading a defense and knowing where to go. Some of that you have to chalk up to it's a rookie quarterback. He hasn't had a whole lot of time. And they were preparing an offense for a newcomer within their scheme to begin with. So there's definitely some fair criticism to throw at Canada to this point. I'll be honest, right now, I would be utterly shocked if Canada was their offensive coordinator next year. I know fans, probably 90% of the fan base is saying fire him now. I don't think they'll do that, but they need to kind of push the envelope a bit. This is the second worst scoring offense in the NFL. I'm not sure we've seen the Steelers that low. I mean, they've had plenty of opportunity to be a bad offense, but it hasn't been this bad in the past.
I know you got a rookie quarterback, but I mean, you still have some super talented wide receivers. You got Najee Harris, a great running back. I was looking at the box scores and the statistics. I mean, how does a guy like Najee Harris only have 100 rushes on the season? You got a young quarterback. I mean, the Eagles, they want to be a passing team with Jalen Hurts, but they know that they're limited there, so they give the ball to the running backs, and they're a heavy run team. How come that's not happening with Pittsburgh? Is that Matt Canada's system, or is that, there's some kind of a flaw there going on with what I could see by looking at the numbers from Pittsburgh's offense?
I am absolutely not going to let Matt Canada off the hook, but when the rubber meets the road, if you only have 100 carries and you're trying to run the ball as much as you are, their run pass balance is fairly consistent with the rest of the league. The problem is they don't have enough plays. And the reason they don't have enough plays is because they're failing running the ball. And they're failing running the ball in part because Najee Harris is not even close to as good as people think that he is. And he hasn't been. I understand that's a hot take, and I'll put this at the top. Najee seems like a great kid. Okay. Character, leader, everything that you want in a guy on your team. That doesn't change the fact that he seems to lack vision right now. His footwork isn't good, and that's partially due to an injury that he has. But the lack of production that he has is not due to the injury. It's the fact that he doesn't see the field the way that he needs to. And not to get in too much of a rant, but there's a reasonable comparison right now between Najee Harris and Trent Richardson, two Alabama running backs that, yes, they played behind significantly talented offensive lines. And it doesn't take a whole lot of talent to run through a hole that's 5 yards wide. You don't get that in the NFL. But my wonder with Najee right now is, does he know what the hole, the crease, the lane, whatever you want to call it, in the NFL looks like? because he gets the ball. You see him. He will stutter step. He will shuffle step. He will do just about anything but move forward. He isn't going north quickly enough. And we're going to continue to blame the offensive line for that. That's where everybody goes. Somebody's already said the injury. In your foot does not affect your eyes. Okay. Your eyes take you to where you need to go. He doesn't do it. It's 100 carries now. I think, yes, the injury makes him look probably a little bit less than what he did last year. But to me, I watch him play as far as a vision perspective is concerned. He looks like the same player. He hasn't improved. And that's a significant problem. There's a backup running back, an undrafted rookie, who on a carry per carry basis seems to outperform Najee Harris. Same offensive line. It's not a specialty situation. Najee Harris should not be questioned in that role. If there is one running back in the NFL who shouldn't be questioned, it's Najee. Be there, he should be the man, but he's not. And a large part of that is he's not seeing the field the way that he needs to if he wants to be a dominant player.
There seems to be a lot of links to like Pittsburgh and Philly here. I mean, because these same questions last year were being had about Miles Sanders. The things you talk about with Kenny Pickett and like his intangibles, but he doesn't have the talent level. A lot like Jalen Hurts, going from last year to this year. There seems to be, questions about the offensive and defensive coordinator in Philly. You guys have, questions about Matt Canada. There are a lot of similarities between these two franchises that people don't realize just because one team's 2-5 and one team's 6-0.
Yeah, they're pretty significant difference at the higher level of this, unfortunately. I think, similarity. It seems like Philadelphia.
To it. It's you sound like me talking last year about the Eagles.
Yeah, I think, in all honesty, that's probably what it is. I think Philadelphia has solved these problems, and they're overcoming these problems, and Pittsburgh is really just kind of getting into them. I said this 2 years ago. It's going to be a rough stretch of things because it's really hard to find a Pat Mahomes. It's really hard to get that quarterback. And if you don't have it, doesn't happen. Your 20th pick overall, your second round pick, he's there for a reason. There are reasons why teams passed on him. And it's not because he's overloaded with talent and he can step on a field on Sundays immediately and dominate. Whoever it is, it's going to take some time. And Pittsburgh right now is in the crossroads of that. They're trying to figure out who they are, and the results are just not happening as much as perhaps they have in the past. And last year, without a question, the most overrated 9-6-1 team in the NFL was the Pittsburgh Steelers. They pulled at least 5 games out of absolutely nowhere. The types of games where if you played them 10 times, they're losing 7 to 9 of those times. I mean, it just games that just don't happen often in the NFL, let alone a string of them the way that they had. So this isn't a surprise to me. These problems are things that they have to take on, and they're going to have to solve as best they can, one game at a time. And that means, unfortunately, you're going to need to have a pretty rough year to get to that point.
There's not a lot of Patrick Mahomes out there. There's just not.
Nope.
But so do you, because that's the question in Philly. I mean, Jalen coming into this year, Jalen Hurts is not going to be a top 5 guy ever. He's not going to be a Joe Burrow or a Justin Herbert. But you can still win if you've got the next tier of guys. And we don't know if Kenny Pickett's that guy yet in Pittsburgh. It's a long way off of figuring that out. But if you build the right team, like you said, with what the Eagles have done, do you agree? Like there's people that come on the show and talk with me all the time that they don't care about what Jalen Hurts has improved this year. You want to keep going every year and keep hunting for that next Patrick Mahomes. Or do you just roll with an average quarterback and build around him? And that's what I do. That's what I believe in. That Jalen Hurts, or I don't know, maybe Kenny Pickett, I don't know. If you have a guy with great intangibles, great leadership, and decent talent, if you put the right team around him, you could still win a Super Bowl.
I think that is absolutely true. I think at the same time, though, for the same reason Jalen Hurts is on the Eagles roster is why you really have to consider your backup quarterback to be a top 20 roster position. You don't know what's going to happen.
I got you.
And it's just too important of a position to not have a decent insurance policy. Mm-hmm. For me, this is just me. Logically speaking, if the Steelers are drafting in the top 3 this coming year, I think that is just on that alone, without knowing anything else, I think that's probably indicative of a quarterback who didn't play very well. It's really hard to have the same quarterback playing every week over an 18 games or a 17 game season over 18 weeks and be bad enough that you're drafting in the top 3. I don't know if that's even possible. So for me, because the quarterback is so rare, if you have the guy, now that's a big if, conditional. If you have a guy within the top 3 that you're able to draft at that quarterback position that you know is going to work out, you know exactly what you want to run with him. He is the leader in the face of your franchise. You have all these things set up. You need to take him. Kenny Pickett was drafted 20th overall. Let's not confuse this with something else. He is a back of round 1 guy. You have any idea how many of those guys don't pan out for much anyway? And Kenny Pickett could be flat average, and it's probably right for where he was drafted. If you have a chance to get a dude, you need to get a dude. And as we've already seen, they paid Mitch Trubisky, $5.5 million this year to play 3.5 games and get benched in fairly unceremonious manner to start the rookie taken 20th overall. Does it seem like they have a good quarterback position in place? I don't think so. Not now anyway. I'll give him the season, but considering this is the time that you're able to scout the amateur quarterbacks on a week-to-week basis without the hype of a bowl game, without, all-star players around him in a weird kind of practice simulation type of week for a player. This is the time you're seeing what is going to most closely equate to an NFL season week in and week out. You need to scout those quarterbacks. Certainly when you're sitting at 2-5 and, forbid me for saying it, probably 2-6 going into a bye week, you really need to address the most important position on the team, because you're not going to win a Super Bowl next year either. Let's be honest. You need to start building for something. I don't know if they have that foundation in place. We'll find out. They don't have to draft until April, but right now you have to kind of take it as we're not sure. So we're going to look at the most important position in the game.
I've only got a couple more minutes of your time, so I want to ask you. You just brought up probably 2-6 after this weekend. Eagles are 11-point favorites, and in my opinion, rightfully so. It's a stark difference between the Eagles and the Steelers where they're at. How do you see the game playing out? Like, I'm not asking for a prediction per se, but do they have the line right? Like, is this really going to be as it seems? Or is there any thought process going through in Pittsburgh that Pittsburgh stands some form of a chance? Eagles coming off of a bye, they're really, buying into themselves and the hype too much, and maybe there's a bit of a letdown or something like that? Or is this just going to be a complete and total romping like I kind of feel like it is going to be?
The last time the Steelers were this big of road underdogs was week 5 against Buffalo. And everyone was talking about how Buffalo was just going to kill them and it wasn't going to be close. And it was a record underdog spread for the Steelers. And the Steelers showed up and got their doors blown off pretty much immediately. 38-3 final score. That game matched I think it was probably over the talent level, just because I don't think 38-3 is a normal score in the NFL. It doesn't truly reflect the difference in talent. But beyond that, though, we'll say this about the Steelers, and I've said this about Mike Tomlin for years. You might find better coaches to take a great team and put them over the top. You're not going to find a better coach for a bad team than Mike Tomlin. He gets more out of bad players than anybody else. Kind of a backhanded compliment, but it's true. And last year was proof of that. I said during the season last year, this is the worst Steelers team we've seen in 20 years. And not only did they finish with a winning record, it was over your typical 9-7 record, and they made the playoffs. They had absolutely no business winning 9 games and not losing 10 games with the level of talent that they had. This is the other shoe falling now. I thought Chris Collinsworth, though, put this really well on Sunday night during the Dolphins game when the Dolphins jumped out all over them on script right away, completely decimated the Steelers on 2 drives. Pittsburgh somehow held at the goal line and forced a field goal for Miami to go up 10 points. At that point, that's kind of when the Steelers really start to lock down on things. And again, I know how not inspirational any of this is. They are a really hard team to kill. They don't give up. They will continue fighting the whole time. That's Mike Tomlin's personality, and that's what drives the players that he has. Coming off a bye, with the scripting that Sirianni has, with the fluidity of that offense, the balance of that offense, I could see it being 17-rip pretty quickly, and I could see it ending something like 24-16. So I think Pittsburgh, they're going to lose by at least a touchdown. Getting up to 11, though, I think really is kind of the game within the game. They're hard to beat by 11 points. I know that it happens. I know that they're not very good. I know that Philadelphia is loaded. I picked them to win the Super Bowl. I don't think Pittsburgh can change. It can trade punches with them over 4 quarters, but I think Pittsburgh does enough all around over the course of 4 quarters to keep it somewhat interesting. Let's put it this way, very simply put, Phil. I think this is the kind of game afterwards both fan bases are going to be upset with the result. I don't think if Philadelphia fans are going to say we should have killed them, this should have happened, this should have been able to do this. Pittsburgh fans are going to be pissed because, well, they lost again. They're 2-6 and their offensive coordinator is terrible. So you put that together. I feel like 27-17, something like that, but it's not going to get out of hand. Early it probably will, but Pittsburgh will claw its way back in and make it kind of interesting at the end.
I love your points on Mike Tomlin and bringing up last week's Sunday, because I don't watch every Sunday night game if it's not a good game or whatever, or not Eagles aren't playing. But the way they were able to hold the Dolphins down, after that first drive and a half, I mean, I love that coach, can hold a bad team and get the most out of them. That's kind of I love that kind of a head coach. I love that. I love it. So that's a really interesting right there. Again, Neal Coolong, at Neal Coolong on Twitter. Make sure you shoot him a follow. Hey, I appreciate you coming on today, man, for 20 minutes or so. Give us a little insight into Pittsburgh and what's going on there.
Definitely, man. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Neal. Take him off the screen there we go. 7-0 and still upset. Eagles started from the bottom. Yeah, exactly. So I just want to thank again Neal Coolong real quickly there. Great always having him on. Wish we had a little bit more time, but he had somewhere else to get to today. Real quick, today's show is brought to you by Gents Barber Lounge. Check out one of their 2 great locations in Fishtown and Old City and book your appointment today. Gents owns the craft and it shows. Rated the #1 barbershop on Yelp in the Philadelphia area. Multiple award-winning barbers and able to handle any style cut, adult or kid. We're back here on Trending in the AM on DSM Media Live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. As always, you know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. Again, I'm your host, Phil Stiefel, at Beard and Knowledge. Thank you, everybody that's tuning in so far. We're not done yet, but make sure you hang in there. I want to wrap up this Eagles talk portion a little bit more. A lot of interesting things that Neal had said there about this Steelers team. And that game against the Dolphins on Sunday night, where the Dolphins score so easily and so quickly, get the ball back and drive right down the field, and are about to score another touchdown to go up 14-0. And they're able to hold. They only gave up after that opening drive. I think it was 16-10 the final score. That's a team that, like Neal said, never gives up. He said that it's very hard to kill the Steelers. And I think that's a really, really interesting thing there, because a great coach can elevate a bad team to being average. I'm not saying that he can elevate them to being great or anything, but he can pull a lot out. And it's his reputation. The players buy into what he says. He says it. That's the true definition of a leader right there. And Eagles fans might be slightly disappointed. Look, it doesn't matter what happens on Sunday. It's in between game 2 and 3 of the World Series. And look, this city is painted red right now for Phillies. And it's going to be the second story on Monday morning, I'm sure, no matter what the results are. When I'm back here Monday morning doing Trending in the AM, it's going to be Phillies and then Eagles. There's just no doubt about it. I might have to go longer than an hour to get all I have to say in, but it's going to be the secondary story. And you got the Union playing in the MLS Cup semifinals on Sunday. So will we be talking about a title match for the Union as well? Yeah, I loved what he said about Tomlin as well. It's great. And what he said about Kenny Pickett and Najee Harris, and just that team in general. You bring up, the offensive coordinator. There are a lot of similarities between the Steelers this year and the Eagles last year. A lot of question marks on the team. But I'm not trying to say Kenny Pickett's going to turn into Jalen Hurts. And look, there's a lot of question marks about Jalen Hurts and a lot of question marks about Kenny Pickett. But if you build the right team around them, you'll see what's happening with it. If you've got a great coach, Nick Sirianni is doing an excellent job of leading and building this culture here in Philly. And Tomlin obviously has a great culture already instilled there in Pittsburgh. You improve the talent on the team, and it doesn't have to take 3 or 5 years to rebuild a franchise in the NFL. If you get a decent quarterback and a great culture, it can flip the switch like that. And that's what's happening in Philly. The only downside for the Steelers is that they are in a really damn difficult division. I mean, the Ravens still with Lamar Jackson. You got the Bengals, obviously, with Joe Burrow. Cleveland, which eventually will have Deshaun Watson. Yeah, he was out on Najee Harris. That was probably, out of the 20 minutes we had him on, probably the most surprising thing he said. I mean, I had Najee Harris busting out. I don't know a lot about the Pittsburgh's offensive line. I don't know if they're banged up on the O-line or not. But him having 100 rushes, and he's only averaging like 3 yards a carry. He's been amazing. I know for me, fantasy wise, I've got him on one of my fantasy teams, and he's been a major disappointment this year for me in the fantasy realm and fantasy aspect of it. Really, really disappointing there. But look, I love how he says the game script is going to play out. The Eagles are probably going to go up quickly, and then Mike Tomlin, because of that culture and what he's got instilled, they're not going to go away. They're not just going to fold up and collapse. They're not going to lose 38-3. We know the Eagles struggle in the second half of games. They get up, they get content, and then they kind of just let off the gas a little bit, let teams back in. I could totally see that happening based off of what we saw last week with the Steelers against the Dolphins. I could totally see that happening again this week against the Steelers for the Eagles. The Eagles might not have the best quarterback, but back to front, yeah. Absolutely agree. Great comment there. You've been doing a great job with the comments here today. Much appreciate the support in the comments and the interaction today. Look, tomorrow, I'll make my final prediction tomorrow, but most of tomorrow's show is going to be Phillies World Series preview. But don't go jumping on betting this 11-point line right away. Wait, 10.5, I think you said, crossover. It's down to, I saw 11 earlier this morning, probably depending on where it is. Steelers are going to make it a game, guys. And, I still have this pit in my stomach that's saying that coming off the bye, they're smelling their stuff. All the Philly hype about the Phillies. There's a lot of negativity around the Sixers, which we're going to get to in a second. I just got this little feeling in the gut of my stomach that it's going to be a really close game. I don't see us losing the game. The talent will win out in the end. But I could see a little bit of a letdown coming off of a 6-0 start, coming off the bye, even maybe even first half letdown where we're down 7-0 early. We give up a big bomb to Kenny Pickett, or something that we've always struggled with. Kenny Pickett, we saw on Thursday night, or Sunday night, drops back to pass, everybody's covered. He rushes 20 yards up the middle of the field for a first down. Daniel Jones has done that to us like a half a dozen times in the last few years. I could see stuff like that happening early. Maybe we go down early. Maybe we give up a drive or two late. I don't know. But there is some slight concern that this turns into a really, really close game, which it shouldn't be, but it will. And what it'll do is, if the Eagles win, but win close, say the final score. I don't know yet. I'm just saying, say it's 24-17. Or say it's 27-21. Something along those lines. Let me tell you something. Eagles fans are going to be complaining a lot, just like Neal said. Like, on paper, this is a team that should decimate the Steelers. Yeah, exactly. But they do win those close games too. And that's a key point right there. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at this going to be a close game. I just mentioned a couple scores. I'm already thinking that 27 points for the Eagles, that's about what they're going to score. They're probably going to give up 17-20. Stay tuned to tomorrow morning show. That's when I'll give my final prediction. But I'm thinking somewhere around 27-20 probably. But that's that. All right, next we got to get to Sixers here. Sixers again. I got to get my screen up here and switch from NFL to Philadelphia 76ers basketball. Guys, for those watching that know, I'm not a Doc Rivers guy. I'm a guy that's been saying since the offseason, since middle of last season, bye-bye to Doc Rivers. Everybody's saying relax. Not yet. Is he going? Did breaking news happen, Adam? I mean, if it did, fantastic. Um, but I said it yesterday morning on the show. I said that if we start out 0-2 or 1-3, we're on a 4-game road trip. Say we go 1-3, don't bring Doc back to Philly. Just let him pack his bags on the road and just go. Because let me tell you something. Doc Rivers has got this Sixers team playing as poorly as possible. And it's not baseball. It's not a 162 game season where you can let Joe Girardi ride it out for 50 games and you still got over 100 more games to figure it out and turn it around. You wait 20, 30 games, you might be 8-20. I mean, that's going to put you so far behind in the NBA standings where it's just going to be too late. Yeah, exactly. Well, the Knicks, I don't even know if the Knicks, I'm so frustrated with what the Sixers are doing right now that I haven't even paid attention to the rest of the NBA. I did make a nice bet, the DraftKings boost last night. Durant and Giannis, both 25 plus points. I took the plus 100 on that, hit that. But man, this Sixers team, again, last night, they literally, you have Joel Embiid, James Harden, Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey. You have 4 stars on this team. Yes, I said it. Tobias Harris is a star. He's paid to be a star, and he is a star, and he can be an effective star. 5 points last night? I think he had. No, even less. 3 points last night. How can a team with so much talent have zero identity? All the talk all season, want to be a defensive-minded team. Joel Embiid saying, I want to play 4 quarters, not wait till the 4th quarter. James Harden's going to do all. James Harden had his worst game of the year last night. Yes, I know. He's not going to put up 40 every single night. But it comes down to the culture. We just talked about it with Nick Sirianni and Mike Tomlin and football and the culture that a coach sets. Doc Rivers has done the complete opposite. He's run like an anti-culture in that locker room. This team has no. I'm so fired up. I can't even talk right now. He's got this team having no clue what they're doing defensively, first and foremost. Offensively, we know that this team is bad offensively. They're stagnant. They just stand around. It's ISO ball. There's no movement. We know that. That's been the problem since day one under Doc Rivers. But at least they've had some form of defensive identity. They don't now. They don't look like they know what they're doing on defense. You got soaking Joel Embiid left and right. And yeah, but the question is, like, how quick is quick enough? Or how long is taking too long? You can't wait 40 games into the season, 30, because when a new coach, whether it's Sam Cassell steps up, just like Rob Thompson did for the Phillies, he's going to want to make changes, and you need time to make those changes stick and figure out. But guys, you cannot lose night in and night out. I'm looking at this box score from last night, and let me tell you something. I said it before the season. I said it this off season. I said it last year in the playoffs. I said it again yesterday morning, getting ready for this game. The Toronto Raptors are a sneaky good team. They're long. They're athletic. They play great defense. They got 5 guys that could score, 6 guys that could score like that. And you saw it last night. The defense they played on our guys. I mean, you saw the length and the athleticism and how it affected. They've got nobody to go guard Joel Embiid. And Joel Embiid had a good game compared to games earlier this season. 31 points last night. Shot the ball pretty well. But how's a guy 7'2", 285 pounds have 5 rebounds last night? How? There's nobody that should be out hustling, out rebounding Joel Embiid. We said he won. I said it this year. I wanted him to average like 24 points, not 30, because I wanted to see Joel Embiid work on defensive side of the game and elevate this team because you had so many options offensively. Yet he's not doing it. The next 3, we got the Raptors again on Friday, and then we got the Bulls, and then we go to Washington. Washington should be a win. But what has the Sixers done so far through 5 games to make you think that they're going to win any of those games? Exactly. So it's really, really frustrating at this point. Somebody said something about Daryl Morey on Twitter last night, and it triggered me because I've been saying it since day one. Daryl Morey has won nothing in his career. He brought in all his old Houston Rockets buddies to pair up with James Harden. What did they win in Houston? Nothing. Now they're older. They're doing nothing. Daniel House, he's like a depth role guy. He's your second guy off the bench. Matisse, I know Matisse has got his offensive issues. Can't sniff the floor. You're playing 3 minutes of Paul Reed and 4 minutes of Montrezl Harrell. There's no idea what he's doing with this. This bench is supposed to be vastly improved than last year, and it's not. This bench is worse than last year at this point. Because again, Daryl Morey's moves, and I question them. And everybody told me, relax, PJ Tucker's going to be improvement. Daniel House is an improvement. I still love the Anthony Melton signing. But what has he done that's any better than what we had last year? Has D'Anthony Melton really played any better than Shake and Furkan did last year? Not really. Has Daniel House done anything that George Niang can't do? And again, it comes back to Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers and what they're doing to build this team. What's good, my man, James? Nice of you to check in. And I know you're a big Sixers guy, too. When is too late? I was panicking game 1. I was panicking game 2. I was panicking before the season, but I was panicking right away. And I was like, relax. Now we're 5 games in. And this team's got the same issues that they had last year. The same issues that they had 2 years ago. Sorry, guys. I'm battling a cold here this morning. I got to mute my mic for 1 second here. All right, I'm back. Yeah, sorry. Got to mute. Dude, I've been battling this wicked cold. I'm on the back end of it. That's why I sound a little nasally today. But just the show's got to go on. The show can't end. When the Sixers are 1-4, the show cannot end. When the Eagles are about to go to 7-0, the show can't end. So, got to keep going. Got to keep pushing forward. But man, guys, every issue, and thank you. I see that. I see that coming through. I think it's time for Doc to leave. But it's almost in my mind already too late because you could have made him leave last year. At the end of last season, you could have made him. You almost lost Sam Cassell. And again, I've said this 100 times. I have zero idea if Sam Cassell will be a very good head coach or not. We don't have any idea. But we've already lost a bunch of other assistants to head coaching roles elsewhere. We don't want to lose Sam Cassell. We don't. You got to promote him. You got to do it now. Do it before it's too late. Because, I'm telling you, Doc's going to drag this team down. What's funny is we talked in the offseason that, I was anti bringing Doc back. But James Harden and Joel Embiid probably signed off on him coming back as their coach. So is Daryl Morey going to ride it out? Somebody else said you got to ride it the whole year with them. I'm fearful. If you ride out Doc Rivers the entire year with Joel Embiid and James Harden, this squad as is, let me tell you guys, this season is going to be a disappointment. We talked on the Sixers kickoff morning show. I had a big panel here. Gint was here. Scotty was here. Dylan, Jason, everybody was here. And the Sixers were only projected at 50.5 wins this year. We're all projected 57, 58 wins. Already I'm looking back saying to myself, there's a reason why the books always win. Because they know what we don't know. And they see what we don't see. Absolutely, Sam Cassell has to be the guy. I can't do a whole year of it either. Y'all had me drinking the Sixers Kool-Aid. I'd like a refund. Yeah. Well, I warned everybody. I wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid. Maybe I had a little first game hype, but I've been pounding the table for these issues since day one. Day one-ish. We're gonna fall into a deep hole. And if this team collapses, if they stick with Doc all year, because Joel wants him, James wants him here, this team is going to be another one and done in the playoffs, depending on matchup. Hell, there's a chance with this Eastern Conference, how deep it is in teams, that the Sixers don't even get a top 4 seed, top 5 seed. You think about the Celtics, the Bucks, maybe the Nets. I don't know. The Nets are a total train wreck. I know Joe Castro say the Nets suck. The Toronto Raptors, I talked about them being a 4 or 5 seed potentially. The Heat, the Bucks are the only team you have faith in. But there's a lot of teams I have faith in more than the Sixers at this point. And that's what I'm trying to get at. It comes down to, does Daryl Morey have the guts to do what is necessary? Get rid of Doc. Promote Sam Cassell. And if Sam Cassell doesn't work as the interim for the rest of the year, then you're good. Then you can move on and find your own guy. That's kind of where I'm at with this team at this point. Look, tomorrow the Sixers are going to play again. Yeah, no, I'm not going to say the Knicks. Never going to say the Knicks. Overpaid for Jalen Brunson. I'm going to tell you that. I know he's willing you to some wins, but overpaid for Jalen Brunson. Tomorrow night, the Sixers play the Raptors again in Toronto. A back-to-back road game in one city. Really weird, but really interesting at the same time. No one's even going to be watching. That's the sad thing. Because the Phillies' first pitch of the World Series is 8:07 tomorrow night. Game 1 of the World Series. Nobody's going to pay attention. So when we come on the show on Monday, everybody's going to be talking Phillies. Everybody's going to be talking Eagles. Sixers are going to get bumped till Tuesday or Wednesday next week when this road series is already over. And they're 2-7 or 1-8. Who knows? That's a problem. And what's going to happen is they're going to slide under the radar. And next thing you know, we're going to wake up and the Sixers are going to be so bad. And it's just going to be in complete shambles. This team, this organization. Once the Phillies are over, once the World Series is over, there's going to be a lot of eyes on the Sixers team. Right now, they're setting us up for a big disappointment. It's going to be a long winter. Hopefully the Flyers get hot or something. Yeah, I guess. Real quick, before I wrap this show up, I want to talk Phillies for just 2 seconds here. Because yesterday, I got an email. I got the email up at 7:03 p.m. And it's from MajorLeagueBaseball.com. The subject line says, Phillies World Series ticket opportunity notification. And if you're in Philly, if you're a Phillies fan, you know everybody registered for the rights to buy tickets to the World Series games at face value through the site. I mean, instead of having to go to StubHub and pay $3,000 for a ticket plus all the fees and whatnot, face value tickets, everybody had to register. There was a ticket lottery system. And yesterday was the day they notified people if they won the rights to buy tickets or not. And when you read that headline, let me read that headline one more time. Phillies World Series ticket opportunity notification. That email rolled in at 7:03 last night. I saw that email come through, and my heart stopped beating for a second because I knew that email was going to say that I've got an opportunity to buy World Series tickets. And I was the happiest man alive. And then I opened the email to see what I had to do. And it says, thank you for registering for a chance to purchase tickets. Unfortunately, your entry was not selected. What the hell? Talk about a kick in the nuts. Don't send out an email, Phillies. I'm calling you out, Phillies. I'm going to cheer you on like crazy. But what the hell? Sending an email out like that and phrasing the subject line to make it seem like you won tickets or the opportunity to buy tickets to just say, congratulations, you did not win the tickets. What? Just don't send out the email. And then guess what happened, guys? So my excitement level went up to 10 plus and then fall down. My heart skipped a beat. And then my wife is in the other room and says, hey, hon, I just got an email from the Phillies for tickets. So my excitement went right back up. And then she opened her email. And it was the same exact response. She didn't win either. So I went excitement up, excitement down. 2 minutes later, excitement right back up again and right back down. The range of emotions you Philadelphia Phillies organizational people, whoever typed that the email did, literally ruined my night last night. It was awful, terrible. Yeah, James, you just don't understand what that range of emotions did to me last night. I was prepping to go on another podcast to rep DSM Media, and that email comes through. Yes, I'm buying. I was ready to cancel that podcast appearance to sit online and buy tickets. Exactly. Why use the word congratulations in there? Why use any of the words? Just the subject line. The subject line of World Series ticket opportunity notification. That sounds like an opportunity to buy tickets. But no! We're just telling you that you didn't win. Just don't send out any email. Don't send out anything. Just let us keep thinking. We know that the notifications to buy them were going out yesterday. So if I didn't get an email yesterday, I wasn't going to have the opportunity. So why send out a no? And look, I posted a copy of the email on my Twitter account at Beard of Knowledge. Make sure you follow me. And I wasn't the only one. Everybody was bitching about it. The Phillies owe us all an apology. They better win the damn World Series. They better, to make up for that. Absolutely. Anyway, guys, we're going to wrap up Trending in the AM right there. I feel a sneeze coming on right now. So I'm going to wrap this up. Make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button. Follow us on all social media platforms, but specifically on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for everybody interacting and talking on the show today. Greatly appreciate all that. Back tomorrow, talking Phillies, Houston Astros, World Series, predictions, thoughts, keys to the series, all that. We'll dabble in the Eagles a little bit more. Everybody have a great Thursday. And, it's still Red October, so let's ring that bell. Thanks a lot, guys.
And Philadelphia has it.
Holding gets around